everybody in lockdown. I hope everybody is having a good time being alone and quiet by themselves. Boy, this coronavirus, huh? What about this coronavirus? It's ridiculous. Now I try and take in as little news as possible. Very, very little. Because I don't like it. It really bums me out, and like life's too hard, So I take in as little as possible. In addition to that, I park myself on Genius Corner, practically, it's all day, almost all day, every day, right? Every day that's a work day. And this is 6 days a week. And so I actually don't leave the house too terrible much. In addition to that, I've been working from home for basically as long as I can remember, since 22. Okay, and I'm 35, I think I'm 35, 36 this year, 35, and we've homeschooled my son since he was just little. He's never been in school, and he is almost 13 now. My wife works from home. So for us, this whole pandemic thing is we've been training for this for over a decade. What's the big deal, But it got me thinking, and I happened to pick up my book. Did you know I wrote a book? I did. The Happy Marriage Hot Sex Handbook. I'm not going to apologize for the title, okay? Because it gets people's attention. A lot of people, Happy Marriage Hot Sex Handbook. Anyway, I happened to pick it up the other day, and I was flipping through it because he kind of okay, so I wrote this 2 years ago, and you're was my advice then, when I was much younger, much less experienced? I mean, it's only 2 years, but 2 years for somebody who is actively growing, as I always try to be, somebody who's actively growing, 2 years is a long time, a lot can happen in 2 years. My wife, at the end of Elul is our month-long preparation for Rosh Hashanah, for the new year, for preparing ourselves and what we're going to do for the next year. My wife, at the end of Elul, which is it comes September-ish every year, she said this year is going to be a huge year. It's going to be epic, one of the biggest we've ever experienced. Here we are. She can tell the future a little bit. Okay, so yes, she is my oracle, my own private sexy oracle. Said it was going to be a huge year. So for me, forward growth is so important to me, and it's so important to everybody in this house, that a lot can happen in 2 years. Anyway, I wanted to look back and say, all right, well, let's self-assess. What I think then, does it match up with what I think now? And I happened to flip through, and I got to this first chapter. First chapter is cleave to one another. I don't know if you know, but there are basically two meanings to the word cleave. Cleave is not a word that we use that frequently anymore. But it's quite dichotomous, as a matter of fact. You can cleave something in half, or you can cleave to something, to stick to it like glue, That's basically those are the two meanings. So it's really weird. I don't actually know how it happened. I should look that up because I use it in the book. I use it because it's in the Bible. For this reason, a man and a woman will, a man will leave his mother and father, and he and his wife will cleave to one another. So that's where it originally came from for me. And I wrote a blog post not that long ago about cleaving and about going on kind of a cleaving holiday. It's called the leave and cleave method, where basically you plan yourselves, because not everybody can work from home. Yes, they can. As of right now, they can. L'chaim. As of right now, they can. But they didn't used to be able to, right? They used to have to plan this. They used to be okay, when's my holiday and when's your holiday, and let's synchronize our holidays. Let's make sure that my vacation matches up with your vacation, and we'll do it at the same time. And then what are we going to do? And I'm okay, for anybody who has to do this 2 weeks at a time, that's okay. You can do that. But here's what you need to do. Okay, the whole premise of the leave and cleave method is to basically vacate any place that you have been, to vacate your home effectively, because people can find you, right? People know where you live. They ring your phone. So you've got friends, you've got neighbors, and all that kind of stuff. And so the premise, you leave your home, you go someplace totally remote, okay? Totally remote, and you go there only with your husband or your wife. And you take with you as little technology as possible because you don't want to be distracted by them. Basically, you want to leave your phones at home. You actually, in addition to that, you want to kind of put yourself in kind of financial straits, right? To a lot of people, that's not funny, but I genuinely mean it. Put yourself in financial straits and make it kind of difficult. Because the whole point of this, what I observed in my marriage and in like marriages who are still going, they always had this point in their marriage where early on, or it might have been while they were dating, but early on, they were basically, like, to quote Jewel, my wife, Jewel, alone adrift and lost at sea, basically, but they're alone together, right? So for my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, who are still very happily married, 5 loud, rambunctious children, probably a 6th on the way. They did Europe together before any of the kiddos came along, and they were there and they like dug through, like they were so poor, they dug through trash. My sister-in-law dug through the trash in order to find tin cans or aluminum cans or aluminum cans in order to cash in order to buy food for them. That's how like broke they were, but they were in it and they were in it together, right? For myself and my wife, we basically moved completely away from where they had been, from where she grew up. We cut ourselves off from that family, which made it very difficult for us to receive it. Her father's very generous, to receive any money from him. Like, it's like, okay, well, like, I'll come and visit you if you're 20 minutes away, maybe, and I'll shove hundreds into your hand. But once you move away from that, then once you move past like the 20-minute range, then you're on your own. I've never heard of bank transferring. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is him speaking. I've never heard of that. So unless I can see you in front of my face and I can give you my wisdom and my $100 bills, then you're not getting it. And that wasn't the only thing that we did. Oh, honestly, we went back and forth to America so many different times. It was, we really put ourselves through it, because you do that. Guess what? International travel, it's expensive. International moving, it's even more expensive. And it's super stressful. So you want to put yourself in this stressful situation as an early person, as an early couple. You want to put yourself in that stressful situation and force yourselves to be in a position where you have nobody to lean on but one another, right? Now, I'm going to break in and say my wife may walk through that door any minute now, and she'll completely refute everything I'm saying. Just kidding. She's out for a walk. So if you hear noise, I'll try and cut it out and edit it out, but I'm kind of, I'm lazy that way. So anyway, we've put ourselves into these stressful situations. And for that, it's like anything that life had to throw at us, we'd put ourselves in those situations, and so it became kind of normal for us. It became like, okay, well, this is what we do. We get better this way. What happens when you're challenged? You either break or you grow, right? Like there's only 2 ways of going here. Either you're growing or you're dying, and there ain't no third direction. I don't remember what movie that's from. Leave it in the comments if you do. Tommy Boy. Never mind. That's why there are no comments on this video. Because I knew the answer. And so we put ourselves through that. But you'll notice the things that I said. It's like, put yourself in financial straits. Go away from your home, everything that's normal for you, so that you can't be contacted by anybody and you have to rely on nobody but each other, right? Well, lo and behold, coronavirus rolls up into the hood. And all of a sudden, everybody has to stay home. A lot of people have lost their jobs. And you are told to remain indoors, so you don't have the ability to go to the bar. You don't have the ability to go to your friend's house. You don't have the ability to go and watch the game with these guys. You don't have the ability to go out for coffee with the girls and do all sorts of whatever, right? You don't have that ability anymore. So you've got to stay home. You've got nobody to lean on but each other. And I thought about that. I thought I'm like, geez, if it's to the degree that I am not affected by this thing, to that degree, other people are being affected by this thing, coronavirus, so much more on the other side. Like they're actually being affected by it. Whereas me, it's like not even a blip on the radar. If anything, it's a good blip for reasons I won't go into. But there are people who, I say go away from everything that's normal, like leave your home. Well, guess what? Home isn't normal for a lot of people. Work is normal for a lot of people. They get up, they go to work. Work is where they escape to, like dominantly for the most part of the day, right? Oftentimes, you two are going to work in two different places, and therefore, my son's about to leave. Go ahead. Often you work in two different places, so you've got your work friends. And guess what? Like, I even thought about this. Like, I've been thinking about this even before Corona arrived, because like contemplating marriage and the state of marriage is kind of what I do. I thought how dangerous it is. My wife has taken up selling things on Facebook Marketplace because she's a gypsy, and that's just what she does. She's a Jewish gypsy. And they sell things, anything that's not tied down or they love dearly, like me or my son. Everything else, it's for sale. Welcome to the Z Family Garage Sale, right? That is my life. And I thought about this. Hello, you're back. He's just grabbing something. And I thought about this, that when a man and a wife, door shut, when a man and a wife go off in their separate directions to work, and they've got their own private life over there, wifey's not watching what husband's doing. Husband's not watching what wifey's doing. And like I said, my wife was on Facebook Marketplace. Well, everybody's got their own private account, right? Me and her. I barely touch it. She barely touches it, except when she got involved in Facebook Marketplace. Now, I don't think it's any secret that my wife is a good-looking girl. I mean, look at her. She's just gorgeous. Okay, so you put a little profile picture on there and you have her selling stuff in the Gold Coast, which is the seediest place in Australia, without a doubt. Besides King's Cross, it is scumbag central, all right? I had a friend who, an acquaintance who lives on the Gold Coast. She's a girl, and she went over to the United States. She was shocked, I tell you, by how polite, how courteous, how respectful they were to her. She's like, I'm coming here for a husband. And I'm like, that's the Gold Coast. The guys, just sleazeballs. I'm sorry, Gold Coast, you are, and you know it, okay? You're practically holding Tinder up on your, slimy, beefy, like super beefcake shoulders, right? So she starts selling things. Her profile gets, it's like you talk to somebody, who's this person that I'm talking to? They're selling me something. Oh, her name is this. Oh, what's her picture? Oh, she's good looking. So I will be sleazy towards her, right? Now, on Messenger, I'm not logged in on her phone. I'm not logged into her account. I'm logged into my account. So it's almost like she's going to work, and and over there, she's got work people who she consorts with, and I don't have any visibility over that. So it would be very, very easy. The amount of guys who saw me, they would come and they would pick stuff up. I would walk into that. One time I walked straight into the house by this guy. I gave him a wave, right? I said, g'day, or whatever. I was bringing my son home. We were going out for our typical morning walk, which had been going on since forever. He saw me. He saw me go into the house. Shortly after he left, he sends my wife a message basically trying to chat her up and say, oh, what kind of wine do you like? Are you free on Thursday? I'm like, that guy saw me. He saw me walk. I said hello to him as I walked into my own house. What? I don't understand. Am I just so naive that so many people are divorced now that when, maybe estranged husband or whatever the partner is, they're bringing the child home after they've had their time and then he's going to go off home? I don't know. Maybe that's just his thing. Tell me if I'm just so naive and sheltered that that's the thing. But she didn't have to tell me that, right? She didn't have to tell me. She could have kept it to herself. She could have continued some kind of at least digital liaison without me. She leaves the house. What am I going to do? Track her phone? Sometimes I do, because I want to know where she is. And that's my personality type, and she can deal with it. But it's dangerous. It's scary out there, folks. You send your husband out to the office. What's going on there? And I've thought about this before, And so when I say leave and cleave, oftentimes maybe what's really needed is to leave your workspace and to actually come home. Maybe that's what's needed. So coronavirus rolls into town. Nobody can go to work. Nobody can flirt with the secretary. Nobody can flirt with Bobby in the mailroom. I don't know if that's a thing, but whatever, the cute guy in the mailroom. Can't do it, And you can't really leave your house for anything except essentials. And here in Australia, we're facing like tens of thousands of dollar fines for doing anything that is considered non-essential, right? Especially fun. They're like $5,000 fine if we catch anybody outside having fun. So perhaps this coronavirus is actually the perfect opportunity for you to do one of the most impactful things that could happen to your marriage. Who knows how long this thing is going to last for? Don't you want to be better for it at the end of it? I mean, undoubtedly, there's this grizzle period where everybody collects together in the house. And if you got kids, God help you, If you send your kids to school and your husband goes away over here and you go to your work over here, like all of a sudden, for that first week, 2 weeks, you're going out of your mind. I'm certain of it. I used to go on business trips and then I come home, like I was just living that bachelor lifestyle, right? Just living the bachelor lifestyle. I'd go to Sydney or something, or go to Chicago, or go to Japan. And it's like, all I had to look out for was me, And then I'd come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, can you guys please be quiet? I am trying to have a little bit of downtime right now. I've had a very hard time dealing with numpties sitting over there on the couch, okay? So I'm just gonna go to my office now and I will come and see you in a couple of hours, right? Like that was me at the end of business trips. So coronavirus strikes, and everybody's locked in the same house and you can't go anywhere. And you're supposed to self-isolate. And everybody's in a pretty bummed out mood. So here's your stressful situation. Plus you might have gotten fired, laid off. You're definitely unsure about what your financial future entails. So here's an opportunity for, on the other side of this, if you came into coronavirus lockdown, dreading it, like, OMFG, I have to spend time with this person and all of these little people. Hopefully by now you're over that, Hopefully by now you've been together so long that you're like, wow, I really actually remember liking my kids. And hopefully, fingers crossed, you're like, if I was going to be locked up with anybody, I'd like to be locked up with that guy, I picked a good one. Hopefully that's you. For anybody who's not, for anybody who's thinking I want Bobby in the mailroom or Susie in the, wherever Susie is, and OMFG, if these kids, who raised these children? Where did they even come from? Put the knives down and decide that in this, you're stuck here anyway. Decide that in this quarantine period, you're going to actually lean into one another because there's only so much Netflix you can watch. The world tries desperately hard to distract us from everything that's real. Really real. And guess what? Really real, it's not fun. It's not fun when you're sorting out the really real stuff. I have sorted out really real stuff intermittently. It's not like it's an all the time thing, but I know it's a thing. It's a recurring event in my life to sort out the real stuff, right? So I sort out the real stuff. And then I have like 51 and a half weeks of bliss, because honestly, it lasts like 3 days max while we're sorting out the real stuff. Anymore it does, because I'm so in the practice, like no. If I even get a whiff that real stuff is coming around the corner, I'm like, we're dealing with this right now because I can't even bear the suspense, okay? We're sorting this out exactly right now, and we're gonna sort it out until it's done. Thank God that we found this out in the morning, you know, so that we can sort it out by nighttime. Because do you have any idea what happens at nighttime if you both go to bed pissed off at one another? Your heart waves emanate out like 15 feet. Think about who you're sleeping next to. It would be better for you to sleep on the couch, you know, than go to bed pissed off because you're sorting out real stuff. And you're just gonna, you're just like, if you get in, and here's a pro tip. If you get stuck in the real stuff for days on end, and it can happen, and it probably will happen to you because not everybody is as blessed as I am and has the practice I have, but I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I mean, I wrote the book, okay? If you get stuck in there, sleep on the couch. Say, sweetie, I love and care about you too much to sleep next to you tonight. Because I know we're in the middle of real stuff, but I know we're going to get through this real stuff. And this is kind of a euphemism for all of coronavirus, okay? Sweetie, I know that we're in the middle of real stuff and we're going to get through this real stuff. And I want that real stuff. I want that process to go as quickly as possible. Therefore, we're going to bed kind of angry with one another. And this is where you got to grow up a little bit, okay? You do. You got to grow up a little bit. You got to say, after you have a sip of alcohol, I want this to end as quickly as possible. So I want to get through the stuff as quickly as possible. And if I sleep next to you tonight, both of us being kind of angry with one another, if there's not a chance that we're going to wind up cuddling in the middle of the night, then I think we should sleep in separate locations, because the HeartMath Institute in California actually discovered that the things that measure, that EKGs measure your heart waves, they actually emanate outside of your body to the tune of, I think, 10 to 15 feet. And did you also know that if you get close to them or you give somebody a cuddle and your hearts align, this is what I learned at Tony Robbins, your hearts aligned, what they have found is that your heartbeat will actually synchronize with the other person, okay? So you think about that, all right? We don't know absolutely everything, but isn't it worth it just sleeping on the couch for an evening so that you don't wake up pissed off in a horrible, horrible frame of mind tomorrow morning when you're still in the real stuff? You're still dealing with the real stuff. You're just going to get up pissed off and be way behind the eight ball on it. How about you sleep on the couch, whoever you may be, sleep on the couch, and then knowing that they're going to want a fresh brewed pot of coffee in the morning, make sure it's ready for them. Summon them down with the scent, the alluring aroma of Folgers in their cup, right? Well, that's, you know, I'm trying to download as much stuff into you as possible at this point. And we're only in chapter 1 of the book, right? But there is a habit and a method and a drive that you need to have in order to be on this journey called life, called self-mastery, called improvement, called tikkun, called, whatever you want to call it, where you're actually making effort to make yourself better. There's a way of going about it so that you can get through it as quickly as possible. And then, like I said, if you will knuckle down, if you will dig deep, if you will actually put in the effort, it'll go so much quicker than if you drag your feet. Because dragging your feet is super dangerous too. You drag your feet through the real stuff that's like baby stuff, like kid shit, okay? You drag your feet through that, that is when people split up. That is when people get divorced, because they get pissed off about the stupidest things. Divorce court, you wind up sitting there in mediation. It's like, can you even remember what we're fighting about? Well, you said this and then I said this and then, yeah, but what about originally? What about way back when? What about then? What are we fighting about? And nobody knows. So, take the opportunity. Quarantine could be the best thing. How about you set a goal? In 1 year's time, in 6 months' time, how about you have the goal that you are able to confidently, legitimately say, Coronavirus is the best thing that ever happened to your family, for your marriage, for your relationship with your kids, because those are the only things that matter, right? I'm out of here.